Hey everybody, how are you? Yeah, Scott will be here in just a minute. So let's see. Thank you guys for joining my first live. I would be lying if I said I wasn't just a little bit nervous, but I'm kind of getting there. Let's see who all we've got. Allegra, of course, thank you. May the Fae, thank you for coming on. Linda, thank you. Rian, B, and of course, Scott. I appreciate everybody. So, welcome to the first live. Like I said, I would be lying if I wasn't just a little bit nervous with everything going on. So, I really appreciate you guys here. So, planning on being on maybe about an hour, and I do have some things to talk about. So, when Scott comes in, I'm sure he will help a little bit as well. But I I have some concerns about some things that I'm seeing, in YouTube and in some of our, let's say, circles that we go in particular with single moms. And I put something up about that earlier. Like, you know, we're we're getting in a place where we're blaming single moms and women for a lot. And I know we've had problems with ones like the one we don't talk about, AH, and how she is, said lies and set Johnny up and all of that stuff. But, I don't think that that means that all of a sudden we don't give anyone else a chance and all of a sudden we blame everybody else. Because I've seen some pretty nasty comments lately. And, I was a single mom at one point. Hey, and not that Karen. And it disturbs me to see so many people acting like that. So, hey, Vicky T, I appreciate you guys being here. Like I said, I'm a little bit nervous. So, one of the things I also wanted to talk about is just wanted to say thank you. This YouTube channel is very, very new. It is something I've always wanted to do. I want to give a special shout out to Scott because he has really helped me with everything. Um, we've got some new videos coming up and some other things. Anything in the freezer? I'm laughing. Hey, Allegra. All right. So let's go back to talking about everything going on. And I'm interested in hearing the comments of the chat, and especially some of you I've already talked to. You know, there's a lot of negativity around the election, and I get that. There's a lot of negativity around a lot of things going on. But what do you guys think? Are you seeing a shift? Because I saw a shift from let's believe everybody to let's believe nobody to let's blame everybody. And everybody is usually the person that's sitting beside you. Well, I think one of the most dangerous pronouns is they and them, because as long as we're talking about they and them, we don't think we're talking about our best friends. So B says, I think blaming the whole group. Let's see, where'd you go? Blaming the whole group never makes sense or leads anywhere. Yeah, I agree with that. I answered a survey a little while ago saying, do you think that all Democrats hate Republicans more than they want to see America succeed? I'm not sure that a lot of people hate a lot of people. I think you're triple so I see it, Scott. I think people just make their decisions based on what they think is good for their family at the time. Because I have Democrat friends, I have Republican friends. It's not something I ask and say, hey, hi, my name's Tish. And by the way, what party are you? So I can decide if I'm going to like you or not. That's just not something that comes up in conversation. Hey, W Daisy Girl William. Hey, Linda B. and Brandy. Thank you for coming. Brandy's still working here to show support. I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm glad there's not a ton of people here because I had pretty low expectations for this one, but I do appreciate you guys coming in. I got some really, let's see, CMS, you have no food for dinner, don't want to go to the store, and I hate to order delivery. What do you have that you can't cook? Sometimes I put together some weird things like bread and cream cheese because it's all I had in the refrigerator. And we've got, let's see, hopefully I didn't miss anybody. If I did, please excuse me. I'm getting used to doing it this way. Normally I'm helping somebody else. CG, absolutely, and labels hurt any conversation by negating any good talking points you have. And KP says, I'm a Dem and I don't hate Republicans. I love all people. It's really hard right now. I respect everyone's values and beliefs. Even though I'm a Dem, I'm very traditional. Yeah. And, I've told some of you before, I grew up in a very political environment. And when I say that, it's not a political household, there's a big difference. My father always ran as a Democrat. There's nothing about my father that's a Democrat, though. It just so happens that in Nashville, they've never had a Democratic mayor. So when anything but a Democrat mayor, like since its inception. So when he ran for mayor, which he did one time, he ran as a Democrat because if he'd run as a Republican, he wouldn't have even got on the ballot. He didn't win, but he did get on the ballot and he was a judge later. So no way, son is too picky. He's a 12-year-old whose new addiction is sushi. I'm sorry. So I get that. Um, and just this idea that we hate each other. I was on a stream with someone the other night, and they were saying, yelling at somebody because they expressed an opinion. I just don't think that yelling and the animosity and being mean ever brings anyone over to your side. It may sound good to yourself when you're saying it, but not to the person hearing you. They stopped listening as soon as your voice got really aggressive. Not that Karen said, I have the hope that people vote their conscience and do not vilify someone who votes differently. Respect. Yep, agree. That's one of the reasons that I have very limited presence on Facebook. Honestly, the only reason I have it is because I've got so many grandkids that they all put their information there and the pictures there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on it because it's turned into, you know, just hate. And it seems like it got worse after 2020 when I don't know if people had too much time on their hands or what happened. Linda B, I don't think we can look at any party according to the old associates. I have to look at candidates' values and how they vote rather than the party. Absolutely. Because here's the thing when you're starting talking about they and the Democrats, the Republicans, and you're talking to people out, you're alienating a potential friend, and you don't know who in your household is what, especially in the South, because there's this idea that we're all Republicans or all Democrats, and that's not true. It just depends on where you are. B, as someone not living in the U.S., I find it interesting to see polarizing politics are in the U.S. and how quickly topics that don't necessarily have anything to do with politics get politicized. Yeah, the other thing too about the way that we pass laws is just because someone voted for or against something doesn't mean they were for or against the original law. A lot of times they pile so many amendments on it that it's the amendments that they have problems with. Let's see. Well, they're true. Hate seems to be spreading somehow. It does seem to be where people don't even know who they're upset with anymore. And KP saying, I know I've had a couple of weak moments recently. I don't feel good about it. I've taken some distance and introspection. I know that I'm capable of better. Yeah. I mean, I think it goes down to individuals. And I really have concerns of is it really so much worse or we just think it is because it's in our face every day? When I was younger, we might have a political conversation at our family at the dinner table, but that would be pretty much it. Wouldn't have it bombarded all the time. Um, CMS says, I'm fiscally conservative. Sorry, this is moving quickly. Socially liberal. I respect everyone's views. Even an alt right guy I work with, everyone has interesting personalities. Yep. Um, CG in Texas says, May the fate. I miss being able to have a discussion or even a debate without absolutes or labels, any chance of compromise or productivity. Society is so polarizing. I'm hateful of the rhetoric storm. I think we're losing the ability to even have a conversation, let alone a discussion or debate without everything going off the rails. And I may be naive and I may be wrong, but I think most people vote thinking that they're doing the right thing for their families. I don't even know if a lot of people really put, okay, what's the ultimate good thing for the country in as much as they say, what is good for me and my family right now? And a lot of times your views change based on who you are and where you are. T Rock, single moms and dad have a very heavy load. Instead of tearing them down, we need to build them up. It takes a village. They're raising the future generation and tomorrow's leaders. Absolutely. I do think though, T Rocks, sometimes it seems like, especially if you happen to be female, there's no way to win. I was listening to one saying, hey men, don't marry a single mom. And then to the single moms, hey, single moms, make sure you remarry. It's like, okay, wait, you're telling this group not to marry the people you're telling that they should be married or it should be awful. And if there's anything going on with the kids, then it's automatically their fault. And you can't have one single parent without the other single parent missing, whether that is through circumstances, things they can't control. I just don't understand. And to me, I was there and I was there for several years as a single mom, and I would not wish that on anybody. Lori M. Hey, White Rabbit. I appreciate seeing you. Um, I think White Rabbit and I are actually related because related to part of the Bellwitch family, and she is as well. So I think we're probably cousins somewhere. Lori M said, I'm a registered Republican, was told to my face that I was too nice to be one and never heard from that friend again. I am so sorry. I mean, I guess in a way, I'm going to say that probably wasn't your friend to start with, but it's really, really hard. T Rock says, single moms and dads. I already read that one. I'm sorry. It does take a village. You're right. Selflessness instead of empathy. Yeah, I don't think we have the way to empathize with people anymore. B, do you guys think the two-party system is part of the problem? We've had a two-party system almost since the beginning, although it was called something different. But I don't know. I know there has been, and I'm not a political person. Let me say that first of all. And I know I'm sounding like it. I'm really one of those people that tend to think that it's not an all or nothing anywhere. We pretty much had a two-party system the whole time. There has been attempts to bring in even a third, and independents don't tend to do well just because of money. It's expensive. When my dad ran for judge, not only is it expensive from a money perspective, it's expensive for a time. I mean, we were out till 3 o'clock in the morning putting up campaign signs. It's insane what you have to do. But I think this us against them mentality is really, really getting out of hand. It's obvious. You're so sweet. Thank you for the super sticker. KP, you're singing my song. I'm not a single parent, but struggling with extreme double standard. Yeah, and even if you're in a two-parent household, sometimes one of those parents are there. So, like when I did get married, and I love my husband, but there were several years he just wasn't there because he's a police officer. So, especially when we hit the year 2000, which some of you are too young to remember, I mean, he spent the whole night watching it. They thought everything was going to fall apart, socially, economically, all the he was watching a water tower while I was home with the kids. So there was a lot of times where he was working extra jobs or gone. And now it's almost reversed because he's retired at home. I'm gone a lot. So it's always been kind of this seesaw thing. The other thing that really bothered me about some of the stuff is, if women are successful and say make more money than their husbands, and all of a sudden that's something wrong. I can tell you my husband has absolutely no problem with it. It's helped us to be able to figure out a balance. There was lots of times I made more because of where he worked. So, um, yeah, it is a topic that bothers me as well. And I think social media doesn't make it any better. I get really disappointed in people that I see and know and love that want to talk outside about, we all ought to love each other, and they're very religious people, and they're people who quote unquote want to save the world, but then they're putting the world down. Whether I like Speaker Pelosi or not, I'm not going to sit there and make fun of her or hope that her husband died when he was attacked. That's just ridiculous. And I don't remember which candidate won or which side it was that said, we need to stop pretending like we're going to work with the other side and destroy them. I'm sorry. What? I mean, there was a time when politics was just representative of, a little bit of a difference, and then they didn't pretend to hate. And guys, there's the thing, it's pretend. I mean, when you look at someone who supposedly hates each other, that's a lot of times in the media. One of my famous quotes from my dad was always, if we knew what judges, lawyers, and politicians did behind closed doors, we would want to hang them all, because it is always a back deal. I remember being in the cafeteria when I was little and hearing my dad talk to the prosecutor and the judge before they ever went upstairs and actually tried a case. And the people they were trying it for thought, okay, this is what's happening, but it already been decided before. Yeah. CMS is saying that her ex has very little involvement with her son, and I know how that is too, so apologize. T Rock's double standards exist and challenging to navigate. Best thing we can do is be supportive and kind, eliminate judgment, and try to be empathetic, try to take interest and be caring. Yeah, I have really challenged myself to be very careful with how I answer people and what I say, because again, it it matters. You know, it's person to person. I can say a lot in a platform like this or on Twitter, but those people I'll never meet. But even when I see people put up what I'm going to call stupid, which is XYZ is the worst person in the world, really, that's probably not true. Single moms are strong. I think cases should be judged and based on individual facts each case. Yes, obvious. And here's the other thing: if you have a single dad, it tends to be that the mom did something wrong. But it's okay to have a single father just as much as it is a single mother. And I don't think either group gets as much empathy as they should. Completely agree, Tish. It doesn't have to be all or nothing or so extreme. Yep. The extremes are what oh, Sandra, thank you so much. Let's see. Sandra, cheers. So supportive. Cheers to, yeah, my first stream. Thank you. Laura, yes, I agree. The media was horrible. I heard an interview with Jane London a few years ago that said they used to have, both sides whenever they did a newscast. And it always had to have the opposite opinion, regardless of if they found someone who was credible or not, because they had to have the opposite opinion. And now instead of reporting the news, they're making the news. And there's a big difference there. Um, Congratulations. Yeah, media is horrible. Vicky T, single mom at 27 with a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old and a cancerous tumor the size of a grapefruit on my colon. I was trying to raise them with only my parents helping me. Yep, I understand. One of the stories, I don't know if you guys saw the video or not, that I did, I think it was last week, was on, Bonnie Parker. And what's really interesting about her is, she became one half of the criminal duo Bonnie and Clyde, but she was in a single parent household. And when they moved from where she was after her father died when she was 4 to Concrete City, she moved in with her grandparents. She made good grades. She did a lot of good stuff. But, back then, single mothers were ostracized regardless of why they were single. You've got to wonder, how much of that played into how she would eventually become. Because a little girl making good grades, getting accolades for those grades, dreaming of stardom, I mean, that doesn't sound like a recipe for essentially a killer, a bank robber and a killer. KP, I have committed to lifting up other women in my workplace in general. We have to support each other, and that includes not smacking talk to another woman behind her back. Yep, I get it. Lifts me up too. Yeah, that's one of the things too on my channel. You're going to see a lot of is a lot, not because I just think it's important to talk around women, but I think it's important to talk around people in general. It's really funny because it comes from a really bad movie, which was Cowboys and Aliens. But one of the questions, I can't remember the main guy. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Said was, good people do bad things and bad people do good things. Very few people are one dimensional. So when I look at somebody, I'm really trying to look at it from more than just the initial what we think. Okay, let's see. Not that Karen. I was a single parent. I had the most amazing daughters who are successfully married and are happy. It was hard, but I did it, even pushing through the biases from nuclear families. Yeah. And a lot of times it's the women that are harder on women. It's not the men that are hardest on women, it's the women that are the hardest on women. I used to see that too. Hey, Sandra. Let's see what else. Hey, expert. Yes, this is my first live stream. It's almost funny. Thank you for the congratulations. It's funny because I've been on, I don't know, probably at least 50 of other people's streams. I'm dipping my toe in, and this is the initial. I appreciate the support. And not that, Karen, thank you so much for the super sticker. Again, that is not something you had to do, but I absolutely appreciate it. KP, 20 minutes in and kicking back, girl. Thank you so much. And thank you to Allegra for agreeing to be the first moderator I've ever had because I'm getting used to StreamYard and kind of all of the things. Hey, Gina, I appreciate that you're here. Let's see, where are we going? I mean, the one who can't rely on child support either, single parents are the strongest lot out there. Yep. T Rock's is saying painting everyone with the same brush or judging is easier than taking time to get to know a person. If we were voting for a candidate rather than a party, behavior and track record speak. And isn't it sad that we've gotten to the point where the biggest thing we want in a candidate or an election is a none of the above button, because really you're kind of going between two people that you wouldn't really want to vote for as class president, let alone the president or a judge or something like that. There's just not, it's just kind of crazy. And if you notice a little while in, the media is for them and then they'll turn on them pretty quickly. And everybody thinks that one of the things I think that was the most interesting about the Depp trial was watching my 15-year-old granddaughter. She's 15 now. And the reason she got so involved in it had nothing to do with Johnny Depp, because she didn't even know who Johnny Depp was. And I just happened to land on it for no reason whatsoever. Just I was working and she was wanting to watch YouTube and that's what came up. But she got to noticing what was said in the trial versus what was said on the news. And she's like, wait, that's not what that said. So she would read and then rewind the newscast and play again. And she's like, Grandmama, this is completely different. And I think a lot of us have known that, like I said, growing up in politics and growing up around media. One of my friends is still a newscaster. We know that, right? But I think this generation is just now figuring it out. So everybody's kind of panicking. With the trial being televised, everybody could watch and kind of compare what was going on. Yeah, Lori, editorials are front page now, and it's not news, it's spin. Again, my uncle was a lobbyist and he used to talk about this, paying the spin doctors, and it seems like that's all we do. Tish in Tennessee, my sister and I are fighting right now over our inheritance because my brother thinks single women don't deserve it, and it was easy for him to find a agreeable attorney to reduce a fake will. I am so sorry. My background, just so you guys know, is in the banking industry, and I see this all of the time. The biggest advice I used to give clients when I'm in operations now, but when I face clients is have a will, and have a will on the simple stuff, not just the big stuff. I don't know if you can see this clock over here. It's about 150 years old, and I like to ended a relationship over getting it because my grandmother promised it to me but never wrote it down. Take your camera and go through your house. Myself, I've got 10 great children and 3 great grandchildren now. I'm very specific about who gets what and trying to make it even, but we've got all of that videotape. Because the worst thing you can do is put somebody in the position of having to navigate through that. Yep. And Gina D, let's see, where are we? Respect and appreciation is all I really want. CMS, I just ignore any texts that she sends me that are sorry. I just ignore any texts that she sends me that are longer than 3 sentences because I know it's going to be a rage fest against me. Boundaries. Yeah. Yeah, and that's really sad. And my guess is too, the person who passed would be devastated if they knew that that was what was happening now. It's horrible. Linda B, I hate to see that you're in the same situation with your sister stealing it all. Link doesn't work. Please send again. All right, hang on. Let me see if I can do that. Stand by. And again, guys, thank you for the grace. Very, very new at all of this. So I appreciate it. I just sent it to you again. So hopefully, and Scott's laughing because usually I help him with stuff, but I've never been on this side before. So it's a little bit different. All right. There you are. I figured out how to add you. I'm so happy.
Hey, that's me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry.
Congratulations on your first live stream. How awesome is
Thank
this?
you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I got to publicly thank Scott. We met because I'm an insomniac and heard a story. He was talking to one of his guests about their son, and I gave some money for a stream, and then we just ended up being friends. And that's been a few months ago, and he has done a lot, and I have to publicly appreciate him for
Most of the
everything
women,
he's done.
most of the women I'm friends with is as a result of me keeping them up all night. So you fit right in.
Yeah, we were talking the other day, and I'm like, dude, I'm not a fan. I'm your friend. So,
Yeah,
we've been mutually beneficial to each other. I think at this point.
you're just
Uh,
saying that because you don't want them to gang up on you.
No, no, I'm not afraid of that. I mean,
God forbid anybody think that I have a fling going on.
no,
They're in
no,
trouble.
no, happily married, no, but like I said, I do appreciate you, and,
That's right. I feel
I
like
don't think it
I'm crashing a slumber party. You should I
I
should
know, but that's okay, you can crash away.
yeah.
Texas Jen, hello, thank you for joining. Let's
I feel
see.
like I'm peeking in the window of like in the movie Grease when they're singing "Look at me, I'm Sandra D."
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
The slumber
And I don't know
party.
if you caught the intro or not, I actually managed to put your name in it, I was so impressed.
I listen.
Because
I've
it
heard
wasn't
everything.
too long ago, I had not edited anything besides work videos, so this is me. Tina Priester, I hope I said that right. My youngest taught me about the trial. She's also 15, so you can relate, and was furious about what she was hearing. Yeah, and again, it wasn't furious over the Johnny Depp piece. It's furious over if they're telling us the wrong thing on this, which is honestly almost just a show, then how bad does it get bigger? Um, yeah. Yep. CG, I sent him a link. Thank you. Like I said, I've got several screens trying to figure out all the things.
Who else are you sending a link to? Is there somebody
Just
else
you.
out there? Okay.
Just you. Nope,
So
just you.
so the prediction I talked about before earlier today came true. Are there any predictions of mine that don't come true, by the way?
Um,
I am programming a
no.
simulation. Just so anybody out there who's religious, just let you know, you're wrong and I'm right. We are living in a computer simulation. I have accessed the toolbox and I am able to program the simulation in real life and make things happen.
Can you program people to be nicer to each other?
I
That would be
can't do
nice.
that. I
Okay.
can't. It's very,
Okay.
very important that people argue and are miserable, and that
Okay.
way
Okay.
politicians can continue doing all kinds of weaselly things, and people don't pay attention because they're all upset about beauty pageants and stuff like that. It's working beautifully.
Yeah, well, if that's what the goal was, it's working. Brandy, thank you for the super chat. Apologies, I'll have to catch the replay. Love and respect to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Let's see. Tina Priester, she wasn't following on the news, but on TikTok and Insta, and she was floored when AH testified she was screaming at her TV. Yeah, and that's the same thing that Hannah was doing. She was going absolutely berserk. Um, let's see what else we got. I'm glad to see. Hey, Texas Jen had cooking dumplings lately. Actually, I was telling Scott I will be able to be on our normal film screen. I've got I don't know, like 30 people coming next Saturday, so be kind of interesting. Let's
And
see.
this is for Thanksgiving. This is not for the
Hmm.
famous festival, which is coming up, you know.
Yes, yes. Rion, thank you for the support. Haley Mouse, you're doing great. Thank you. Again, I want to thank Expert for coming on as well. That was a surprise, but I appreciate him. Linda B, thank you for the super sticker. That was a very, very sweet of you. Group hug. Yeah, absolutely. Group hug. So KP says life isn't easy. We didn't choose the hand we're dealt, but we can make planet Earth a better place despite the garbage. Yep. And, I was reading someone else saying, I hope all my wishes come true. But if all my wishes came true, that might not be good for somebody else. So I'm kind of glad Scott's in charge of the programming because I would just mess it up. I would make everybody be nice to everybody because everybody can't get what they want, right? Because what I want may take away what you want, or worse, what you actually need. Scott Cardinal, I feel like I snuck into a secret society that no guys have ever been. That's cute.
What happened?
Um,
What I miss?
Scott at Scott Cardinal, CMS said, I feel like I snuck into a secret society that no guys have ever seen.
That is true. Hey, wait a minute. Let's look at Vicky's comment. I think we're supposed to have a pillow fight in skimpy clothing. Yes, please. Do not let me stop you. Do not let my presence stop you in any way. Because let me tell you, it never stopped any others before. So
Well, yeah. No,
why
no,
stop
now there may
now?
be an unclothed dog coming in here at some point. So if I'm sure everybody knows me, or you wouldn't be here, but my channel covers history, mystery, stories, and tales, and also tales because I have four boxers that are huge. They're 70 pounds apiece, and if they decide to come in here, there's no way to stop them. So they kind of usually bomb. Not that Karen, yes, they want us fighting. So we are looking the other way while politicians, etc., do their damage. Yet Scott and I were talking about the distractions. Was that today or was that last night? I don't know. My
It's
days are running together.
it's every day.
Yeah.
It's amazing
Yep.
that people keep buying into it. Whenever something appears in the news that nobody like and it's the biggest thing and nobody ever talked about it like 3 or 4 years ago, you know
Mhm.
it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, yeah, when all of a sudden it comes out.
Yeah.
Miranda wants to know why you are not making politicians way nicer and making them sing.
Uh, making them what? Sing?
Sing. Yep.
Yeah. No, politicians are disgusting human beings,
Yeah.
and all will be revealed in time. Remember,
There's a master plan.
when we do shows like this, it's not just for people of today, it's for people in the future to watch, right?
Correct. Correct. You're
And
right.
so, the more people see and see how people are thinking today, the
Yep.
better. It's kind of like watching the 80s movies like we talk about. Like
Yeah,
I'm halfway through Weird Science. I think you've heard of that movie
I
before,
have.
yeah?
I've told you that's one of my favorite movies.
It's
And
so
I
good.
haven't seen it in a while. I can't wait till tonight. I'm going to rewatch it. So,
I just
Joe Tracy said those are beautiful pups. Thank you. They don't know their dog them to death. So, yeah. Gina D, my daughter was believing the news. I'm sorry, my daughter was believing the news also about JD until she started watching. Then she had something to share with me every day. Yeah, it again. I'm not a big starstruck person. I live in Nashville, which we see them everywhere. I honestly didn't know much about. I didn't know who Amber Heard was at all. To be honest with you, I knew who he was, but yeah, it's just
nobody knew who she was.
nobody knew who she was. That's the thing. Um,
And nobody cared.
It's all BS and may we live in interesting times. You may find what you're looking for. It's supposed to be the words from an ancient curse. Sounds kind of what Tish in Tennessee is talking about. Yep, yep. Sometimes finding what you're looking for is the worst thing you can do. Let's see. CMS has stopped watching all cable news years ago and been much happier about it. Yeah, I very rarely watch the news anymore. Politics or smoke and mirrors is just what Scott said, and I think I'm caught up. And if I miss someone, I apologize. Just hit at Tish again, and I'll try to make sure that I read your comment. We need the 80s to make a comeback. Yeah, Scott and I are trying to bring them back in the movies. So, Linda wants to know what you're doing.
My computer crashed on Friday, as you
Yep,
know,
yep.
and yesterday I and it's a nice computer and it's only 3.5 years old, so it should not have crashed. But I can't get an appointment at the Apple store until tomorrow at 12:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, good grief.
But I need a freaking computer. Now I've got a
Yeah,
laptop, which is fine, but I like to plan ahead. I'm like, okay, well if the computer's crashed, so I went yesterday and I bought I don't even know, a hard drive, and then I had to
right.
buy monitors, and I'm actually hooking up the monitors as we speak. So I'm on my laptop talking to you, and I'm hooking up monitors. That's what all the noise is about.
Yeah.
So because I have not gotten any much work done that I was supposed to do this weekend,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I got to
I got
make
my
up for it.
work done. I'm just behind on some other things. Lucky, thank you, said just think 50 years from now, people will be nostalgic for 2022. And it's really funny. My grandmother is 104. She'll be 105 this year, and she gets really amused about people that talk about the quote unquote good old days, but they were ones that were too young to have been there. And she said, yeah, there were some things better, but I would have loved to have had the chance to be an astronaut.
Yeah,
And she didn't even get that opportunity. So, I mean, sometimes the good old days are what you're living in right now.
exactly. Well,
Um,
it's very easy for all of us to be negative, right? Because we're overwhelmed with negative stuff.
yeah,
But after we do Trials of the Century, right? Rob and Ian and I are
yeah,
hanging out backstage, and we just really are always we're not really astonished anymore. But it's
yeah,
just amazing how wonderful everybody is. For example, you're our friend, okay? So
hmm,
you're part of the group, which is cool. But you help us with the research with Trials of the Century.
yeah,
Like when I tell you, hey, can you help us with this? And you find cool stuff, which is great.
yeah.
And Allegria, the second I get off the show, or even sewing, she's like, "This is great, it's wonderful," and she tells me what went on in the chat because I can't always keep track of it.
No, it's hard sometimes to keep
Yeah,
track. Yeah,
and so Allegria is helping us right now with gathering images, for some
yeah,
shows I need to do, and Brandy and Linda DB also. They're like, "What can we do to help? Is there anything we can do to help?" And
hmm,
it's like time is the most I can record, no problem, and I've got ideas, and I could put together a ton of videos. The
yeah.
problem is how much
How much
time
time?
can I
Yeah.
spend? And so there's these great and most of the people here already know this. We've got the greatest group, and we
Oh
just
God,
wanna
yes,
I'm
yes,
so thankful because life can suck, right? And people are
Yeah,
negative and miserable and
yeah,
unpleasant. And somehow, some way, the cosmos aligned and something happened, right? I mean, what is the statistical probability that I would go to the Johnny Depp trial, Rob would go to the Johnny Depp trial, Ian would
yeah,
go to the Johnny Depp trial, right? And we would all become friends. And the
yeah,
fact that Joe was able to communicate with them before I could, because I didn't know them, Joe did.
right.
And I went there on a Sunday as I was leaving, I was near DC and I went over there and I didn't know Ian and I didn't know Rob, but I heard them on somebody's show. I think Alita's maybe.
Probably it
And
is.
and
Yeah,
Ian's like, yeah, I'm gonna be down there and Rob and I are gonna go there at like 2 in the morning. And I just heard that and it meant nothing to me. I mean, just I filed it in the back of my mind
right,
and it
right.
wasn't anything I thought about. I'm like, oh cool, those guys will be there at 2 o'clock. And then I went there at 3 in the afternoon and I was number 13 online and I knew that only 100 people were getting in. And I thought,
Yeah,
holy shit, if Ian and Rob don't get here, they're not getting in, right?
yeah.
And so I sent a text to Joe. I said, Joe, contact Ian or Uncle, contact Rob and tell him to get the heck over here. And I mean pronto. And so it was like all of these things happen, and we happen to like each other, and we happen to have similar, um, interests, right? And similar sense of humor, which is very, very important, right? And then, look at all the great people that we have in the chat. And it's like
Yeah.
everybody just kind of gets it, they understand it, and we're able to make jokes. And, 25% of the people you meet in life have no sense of humor, right? Things just
Right,
go right over
right.
their head.
Easily,
Yeah.
easily.
And we,
I
and we
s
just have this great group of people that kind of we can make jokes and they get it and they understand it. And we don't have the ugliness that a lot of other people do in their chats.
well, and what little we had, we kinda weeded out pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
and there's a
Yeah.
difference between stressing your expressing your opinion, because I do want your opinion. I'm one of those people where if you tell me you don't like something I do, I'll ask you questions because I wanna understand what it's like from your perspective. That is very different than people being just out and out mean to each other because of the blanket anonymity that you have in these chats or on Facebook or anything else. So, yeah, positive attitudes. I will say this. I met, and some of you again are too young, but Scott, I'm sure you know who this is. It's Zig Ziglar. He gave me a scholarship to go to a college in Montgomery because I just happened to meet him. But one of the things he used to tell me was if you don't like somebody, or your blood pressure goes up when they meet you, or you find somebody difficult to deal with, literally sit down and write 5 things you like about them every day, whether it's a person, a job, a place. And it's going to suck at first, but just do it. And he used to say that in his speeches too. And I actually did it and I do it today. And it really makes life easier. At least it helps you search for another perspective about somebody. Even
Oh
when
yeah.
sometimes there's not a lot of redeeming, sometimes they are.
Well,
Miranda Giovanni, I'm going to say this wrong, I'm sorry. Giovanni, Scott and Tish in Tennessee. Yes, we become a family. Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
we become a family.
I mean, you could see things a lot of different ways. I mean, last
Yep.
night I went out to a restaurant. It's got the weirdest name, but I talk about it once in a while. It's called the Cheesecake Factory. Have you ever heard of it?
I have. There's one here.
Brilliant marketing. First
Yep.
of all, they make $1 zillion, right? And
Yeah.
if they really wanted to, they could expand the square footage of their places.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't. They don't. They do
No.
it on purpose because they want
Yeah.
a line outside. So when people drive
Because it
by,
shows that it's not accessible to everybody.
yeah, exactly,
Yep.
and you just drive by, like, I remember going to one, like, in California, right? And there were
Hmm.
just a ton of people outside, and I was in Los Angeles for this festival called NAMM, right, which is a big music festival. If you're a
Hmm.
musician, that's the kinda thing you go to, and I was with a few friends, none of them were American. They're all, like, French and British, and they said, "Scott, is there any place to go to eat around here that, we could all go to?" And so I just looked up on my phone, I saw there's a Cheesecake Factory, and,
Yeah.
their menu was like 9,000
Oh
pages.
God, their menu is like a book. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly, and so I said to them, I says, "Oh, we'll go to this place called the Cheesecake Factory," and they says, "No, no, we're hungry." I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." They said, "No, I want dessert, I mean, food." I said, "No, it's called the Cheesecake Factory on purpose, it's all marketing." I
Right.
said, "Well, what the hell kind of marketing is that?" I said, "Because when you go out to eat normally, maybe
Yep.
you'll get dessert, maybe you won't get dessert, but when you go to Cheesecake Factory, you feel obligated to buy
I
their
don't care
freaking
what you eat, you're
yeah.
gonna get at least order it even if you don't,
Exactly.
eat
You're
it,
buying their
right?
$14 slice of, blueberry cheesecake or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
brilliant because they already know they could factor that into the menu, except for me because I couldn't eat any of that. But
Well,
either
and
way,
Vicky T said, "It reminds me of The Big Bang Theory." But what's so funny about The Big Bang Theory, um, which Scott, I don't know that you've seen that, but it's just a show about kind of nothing. But
I've
that
never heard of it.
cheesecake factory that supposedly she worked at, that Penny worked at, looks like no cheesecake factory I've ever seen. So I don't know what they were trying to do there exactly. In defense, they do offer breakfast food on their dinner menu. I didn't know that. It's been a while since I've been there. Um,
There's only a few things I can order, so I don't really
yeah,
look through the rest of the menu because 'cause it'd make me vomit. I don't wanna see, kangaroo burger or whatever the hell they have on there,
no,
but,
no,
it's monstrous, but there's something for everybody,
yeah,
and so, alright, so this guy's our waiter, and he's wearing a mask, right? Fine, okay, I don't know what freaking month this is and year, but you would think enough with the mask already, but alright, fine.
you would think, but
And the
yeah,
guy doesn't shut up. I mean, he spoke so much, it could, like, make your skin crawl. And then every other, person at every other table, because he's got his area, right, his turf. So he's got, like, 5, 6 tables around us, and this guy's on his feet, and you could say this guy's gotta be exhausted, but he never
yeah,
showed it for a second. And if you said, "Hey, what kinda drink do they have? That's a cool looking drink." I mean, he would open up the because we did that. And he's
yeah,
opening up the menu, and he's showing everything. He is going above and beyond, right? And it wasn't just for tips. I mean, you could just tell this was a
no, no,
charismatic guy. He was a cool guy. He wanted you to have a great experience while there. And it was nonstop. Do you need anything? Do you need more
hmm
water? Do you need more iced tea? Is everything okay? And it wasn't like the simple everyday thing. I mean, it was just, and to be honest with you, it could almost annoy you because you always feel like, look, leave me the hell alone. But you look
yeah.
at it from his perspective, this guy wants to do a good job.
He wants to do a good, yeah. And you have you seen the signs that say, "The entire world short staff, please be nice to those who show up." I
Yeah,
mean, I know that dealing with customers, and again, that's was part of my job up until this year was calling back people that are mad. But which I actually really liked because I like to see if I could have them not mad by the end of the conversation. But sometimes it's like you have to stretch to really be polite because they're just mad right when
yeah.
they're there. And I get it. They may not be making a living wage, all kinds of things. But when someone is trying like that gentleman, it almost makes you feel like you want
Eh,
to be nicer to them.
the way his attitude was, this guy will be successful in anything he
Oh
does.
yeah, I hire people. My son, he works now, but growing up, I mean, he still does it. If I got wowed by somebody at a store, um, anywhere, shopping, even at the gas station, that is where I hired tons and tons and tons of people. I very rarely hired who they set up for me to interview with because I can teach all of the job. What I can't teach is treating people how to be treating somebody how to be different and treating people how to be decent to other people if they don't already know and don't already do it. I
Exactly.
also try to be empathetic though, because everybody has a bad day. And while I try really hard to show up well and I try really hard to be polite, I'm very bad at it some days. So I have grace. But when somebody goes out of their way, to try to be nice and try the people skills, yeah. And not just even the people skills, because there is a little bit of a learning curve for that too. If you work in retail or really are a parent, there's a book called Verbal Judo that changed my life when I was in my 20s when it came to dealing with everybody. But, you can teach the skill on how to navigate conversations, but you can't teach the want to on treating people decent. CMS $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Yes, you're one of the first ones. I've had a few, but I so appreciate you. Um, I can't tell you what that means. And I have a badge of honor that you've sent it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Um, so so the guy, I left him a tip. The bill was $48, and I left him 50 bucks as a tip.
Yeah. I've
And
done
the
that
reason
before.
why, yeah,
Yeah.
I looked at, because it tells you, oh, 10%, 15%, 18%, right? And so what's 20% of that? Like 10 bucks? And I thought
Yeah.
to myself, come on.
Almost done.
Yeah, let me just shoot this guy some extra money because the ladies next at the next table seem to have been giving him a hard time. They seemed
Yeah,
a little bit snooty, and I thought they're not going to give this guy anything.
yeah.
So nobody knows who works at the Cheesecake Factory until I give them uh, the receipt how much I gave this guy. So somebody came by to clean up the table, and I said, "Can you do me a favor?" Because the waiter wasn't there. I says, "Can you do me a favor and grab the manager?" And he said,
Of
he
course, he's
didn't
like,
say anything, he just kinda shook his head, yeah.
sure.
And the
Yeah.
ladies at the next table, you could see from the corner of your eye that there's like "Oh shit, what's this guy gonna say?" Right? So, the guy never got the manager. So, we're sitting around like an
Oh,
extra 10
no.
minutes, right? And so the waiter came out, and he didn't know anything, he was just going to the next table, and I says, "Hey, excuse me." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you mind if I speak to your manager?" And he just looked at me, he goes, "Yeah, no problem." And he went and grabbed it. Didn't have a weird look, wasn't upset about it, nothing.
Yeah.
Manager was out there like 2 minutes later. So it just
Hey,
goes to show you
Jessica.
the difference. This guy went and grabbed it, and I told the manager and I spoke about it, and the ladies at the next table just, "Shh," right? They
'Cause
wanted
they
to
wanna hear
listen.
what you're gonna
They
say.
wanted to hear the
Yeah.
whole
Yep.
conversation.
Yep.
And I just said, "Look, this guy was awesome." And, I
Yeah.
went into a whole thing. And he's like, "It's a good thing to do."
He was probably stunned because most of the time, I wanna talk to your manager or, you know, I wanna call your boss, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of times,
That's what they deal
again,
with. They
I
deal
get
with
to
that a
deal with
lot.
customer service, and I'm actually usually not their boss, I'm just the person pretending to be that day to try to get them off the phone and be okay, but very few people, and that's something else I've been trying to do, is make sure that when someone does a good job that I do the survey, not when somebody does a bad job. When they're kind, I say something to their manager because there's too much out there where we don't appreciate people like we should.
Exactly. What I said to the manager before we got up to leave, I said, being a manager and having somebody like me talk to you is the
Mhm.
equivalent of somebody writing a letter to a politician. Very
Yeah,
few people are going to
yeah,
take the time. So when
yeah.
I'm sitting here telling you how great this guy is and how much you should appreciate him and what a fantastic job he's doing, just know that I'm representing what, maybe 50 other people
At
who
least.
who wouldn't
Yeah,
take
who
the time
didn't
to do
do it,
this.
who
Yeah.
didn't take the time to do it, yeah. And I think the more we do things, it's one of those things where you throw a ripple in a pond and they eventually spread out. Well, you can see them for a while, right? But you don't know how far it's actually gonna go. I think it's one of those things that if you really try one at a time, it can make a difference. Hey, Anna, it's 1 a.m. for me, so I have to go to bed. Just wanted to say hi to all the kind of people in the chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us. And CMS got to run to Whole Foods to get dinner. Yeah, because don't forget sushi for that youngin in your house. I'll try to check in when I get back. Appreciate that. Definitely. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
I'll
server.
shut up so you can go through your comments there. I
No,
see you
you're
got a bunch
fine.
started.
No, you're absolutely fine.
Well, if it's
I'm
up to
just,
me, we're gonna talk about torture devices.
yeah, we can talk about that too.
We gotta do that before
Um,
Tuesday.
Haley
I
says
come up with some
people
good stuff.
consider me a creep because I always tell people when I'm grateful. I think it's important for people not to get praise and not just complaints. Yeah, and people get shocked when you're calling them saying you did a good job. Because I see all of that. Um, yeah, Jessica Reloaded, thank you for joining. I appreciate you. I wanted to go back and pick up a couple of these
Oh,
chats I
really?
starred.
Jessica
Yeah,
Reloaded's here.
she's
Awesome.
awesome. I really appreciate
Hello.
her.
Good to see her.
Yep. She's We usually run into each other on Saturday night/Sunday morning. Um, yeah, so Linda B, that's why I support Scott and Tish. They're positive, or they're about promoting positive attitudes and love. Yep, absolutely. And speaking of your trials of the century, what a lot of people don't realize, Hey Sky is a neighborhood. In those is how much work goes into those. And I do some of the research, not all the research, but I do some research, and some of it just makes me mad, especially the innocence projects we've been doing. I'm not going to steal the thunder, but there's one in particular that is based in Tennessee where my father knew the prosecutor. And I was just so, I mean, I think I told you after, as soon as you do this, I'm doing a video on it because it made me so mad. I wanted to throw things
Yeah.
where this woman had spent way too much time. It's just insane. And on the flip side of that, I also know how many, as married to a police officer, married, in a lawyer and judge's house, how much they have on their plates. It's easy to overlook things, but you're dealing with people.
Yeah.
Linda B, when I have to call a company about an issue, I make sure to tell the person I understand it's not their fault and I don't hold them personally responsible. If I'm upset, I also apologize to them. Yeah, one of the things I teach, because I train in customer service, is if it's positive, take credit. If it's negative, put it in third person. So instead of I can't cash the check, which makes people think that person has a choice, the check can't be cashed. But here's what I can do. It's one of those things I stole from that book. Catherine, sorry I'm late. Hey, late here is never late. But woo for Tish. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate you. Another thing I kind of want to talk about, because I get asked this a lot about research and how I end up researching for either TOTC or kind of whatever. So I am really cognitive of the source that I get things from. And normally that is actually looking at papers from that time frame. Once you get past the 1700s, it gets really hard. But I actually pull up the actual newspaper articles, not just what the internet says the newspaper said. Um, I do have a ancestry.com account, which helps some. But when I'm looking for trials of century, the things that they're telling and the things that Scott are saying, it's really well researched. The problem is the past isn't always kind. And what I mean by that is there's no way to give the information through 2022 eyes normally. It's always got some kind of slant on it that's uncomfortable. So it can make it kind of hard. Um, hey, May the Fae, glad to see you as well. Let's see what else. Who is this other guy? He looks familiar. That would be Scott. Yeah, he joined as well. Thank you, Catherine. So
Yeah,
yeah, a
I didn't,
cruel and unusual
I
punishment.
didn't blow dry my hair today, so it looks a little bit,
Okay.
it's kinda
Okay.
fluffed out.
Sky's neighborhood. Hey, you're doing great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've got some new videos that are kind of queued up to come out this week. One of them is about Dolly Parton. That one's coming out this week. I'm hoping to get the one just of Jesse James, because on the surface, Jesse James in Tennessee and the Bell Witch don't seem to have a lot in common. But actually, he spent quite a bit of time hiding out in that cave, and quite a bit of time in Tennessee. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to take a look at. CG Bad Hair Day. Yeah, there's a lot of those. I'm gonna go back a little bit, pick up one. Sue Magic said JDAHK showed differing minds can differ. Most of us agreed on this, whether we belong to a party or not. Just following those who put in positive vibes out there in the universe, like you and Scott. Oh, you're really sweet. And I mean, even when we're talking about a case like that, again, didn't know who she was, don't have any respect for anything she did. But people that say that she's the worst person on the planet haven't met that many people on the planet. There are a lot of people that are much more dangerous than she is, although what she did was pretty bad. And sometimes I think we're grabbing on to all of that just because it's easy not to have to deal with other things.
Well, there was a reason why Roman soldiers were always kept busy building stuff. They say, idle hands is the devil's playground, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is after the Johnny Depp trial ended, you had this incredible amount of energy, and nobody knew what
Hmm.
the hell to do with it.
And
And
collective energy, not just energy of one person. It
yeah,
was, several people were that may not have even talked in the past or at least not agreed on something were all of a sudden all on the same page. And then they're trying to stay on the same page about something. So I
exactly.
completely understand that.
And that is why in the beginning of June, I said, and you know this, I said in
I
about
did.
6 weeks or so,
Mhm.
somebody's going to appear that's going to take all the heat off of Amber Heard. So all your hatred, all your fighting, all
Mhm.
your screaming right now, in about 6 weeks is going to go somewhere else. I don't know who. I'm not even sure exactly if it's going to be 6 weeks, but around that time, trust me, something's going to happen. And then who
Yep.
appeared out of the blue?
Yep.
Boozy.
Boozy. Yep.
Right? It was so
Yep.
predictable, and it's like, I don't know how people didn't
I'm
see it.
telling you, Scott is, I mean, he said he's the grand designer, or I'm going to call you the great inventor
I'm
because
the
it
programmer is
sounds more
fine.
yeah, but it sounds more steampunk to
I've
call you the
accessed the
great designer.
toolbox.
But yeah, he's been pretty right on almost every prediction that he's done over the last little bit. Lori was asking, Tish in Tennessee, do you use a Library of Congress website? Yes, I do. And in fact, when I see in the news or on Twitter or wherever talking about a bill going into Congress or what it's been passed, I actually go look that up. There was one not too long ago where everyone was saying oh, this law called CHIPS is where they're going to start putting microchips into every infant. Okay, I understand the fear around that, but that's not what that law was about. It was actually about giving food to daycare. And that. So I actually go and look up the bill and read it myself
The
because the
the
spin's
Library
too
of
much.
Congress website is also fantastic for
Yes,
photographs,
yes,
and they're all free because
they're
we
all
paid for it.
free.
Yep.
Yep, they're
You
all
could
free.
download them in every kind of different, PN J JPEG, PNG, whatever, all sorts of different
Hmm.
sizes. Yeah. You wanna find
Yeah.
great images. Whoa. Library of
So
Congress, awesome.
Sky was asking, doesn't Dollywood do a reading project for local schools? Yes, she does. And in fact, in a lot of times she does it without she doesn't do it saying, okay, press, I'm going to be reading for this local school. She does a lot of reading for local schools. And one of the reasons I picked that as a video, again, my other grandmother who's gone now used to, she lived in Red Bowling Springs, which is about as rural as that sounds, and would talk about how desperate they were for books because they would pass them around so much that they weren't in any condition to read after a while because they just couldn't get them. So that's why I kind of zeroed in on that. And people right now are looking for something to give back. And I know there's a ton of charities that are asking and needing, but if you put a book in the hands of a kid, you open up a whole new world, and it does impact it later. I was a really avid reader when I was younger. Um, it's obvious, and that collective energy brought some people who can't look eye to eye on things, came together as communities, reactions, and anything I've ever seen. A lot of people got hurt. That's true. That's absolutely true. And the other thing is the fact that people are so they're putting too much responsibility on Amber Heard in a way. And what I mean by that is, you know, she doesn't represent anybody except herself. And a lot of people are saying, I have to believe her because if I don't believe her, then we're going to go back to, you know, people not being believed. And that's my biggest thing as a female with the Me Too movement that drives me insane. It's not believe all women, it's investigate every claim without deciding ahead of time what it is that you're looking for. Let's see.
Well, you heard some ladies now, claiming that Warren Beatty raped her
When
in
she was 14 in
1972.
1972.
I'm like,
Yep.
"This is the world we're in now? We're 50, 60, 70 years." I don't even know how many, what was that,
Well,
70
and
years
and
ago?
I have
Whatever.
all the empathy in the world for anyone who has been through that, and I am so sorry if that's you. Seriously, that is horrible, and things like that should not happen. But as the mom of boys, it kind of, that bothers me from that aspect too. I mean, if they do something they're not supposed to do, I'm all about my boys, but they'll tell you in a heartbeat. I'm big on natural consequences when they do stupid or when they do something wrong. But it yes, I agree with what Albios is saying. An accusation should have been taken seriously, and that should have been the standard to investigate the accusation, not to try to protect anybody to actually say what happened. That's one of the reasons why I said I was never going to marry a cop. I was never going to date a cop. I didn't want anything to do with a cop. I've been married with a cop now for over 25 years. That's one of the things about my husband that I always appreciated was that he always investigated things looking for what the answer was, not what he wanted it to be. But we have seen, knowing a lot in the police, that they get convinced that X did something, and they're trying to make the X right versus taking it where it goes. So, let's see. Linda B. Miller's right. Check out. I missed something there. Hang on about. Oh, Vicky T. And I hope, uh, Vicky, if you don't mind, tag me and let me know it's okay for me to read that comment because I don't want to unless you tell me it's okay. Treat. We teach people how to treat us. Yes, we teach people how to treat us and how to treat each other by setting example. Love our family community for now. They live and teach love, support, strength, and unity. And yeah, and I mean that's one of the things too is you teach people how to treat you. The other thing is it in trying to be kind. Oh, Vicky T, thank you. I'll read it in just a second. In trying to be kind too, you can put yourself in a position of being taken advantage of. And it can almost make you think, okay, I was nice to this person, and they weren't who I thought they were, or they were not telling me the truth, so I'm not going to do it again. But that's actually the devil in the detail, right? Is that if you're not going to do it again, you're keeping yourself from the joy of being able to help someone who truly deserves it. And yes, you're going to have people that are going to take advantage. That's just part of the game of being human and trying to make a difference with people. I'm going to go back and find Vicky's comment. So she said she has tried. I'm going to try to say this right, Scott. I've trigeminal neuralgia, and I hope I'm sorry if I butchered that. Thanks to chemo, so all my nerves in the face and head are on fire. So my hair hurts like a MF, even when it's a fourth of an inch. She was saying that she shaved her head, so she didn't have any more bad hair days. And then there's a little more. Oh, looks like we're getting a Hayden raid. Hey, Sinbad, 333. Definitely see you around some places. Vicky, thank you. I never put it in the chat, but I would never want to read something like that without asking first. And I hate that you go through that. Definitely so. Let's see. Scott, I'm getting new at starring these things. I've never been on it from this side before.
You're doing
Um,
what? Starring?
yeah, figure out how to star the comments. T-Rex said, United we stand, divided we fall. Those that preach and teach hate are causing division. It is so destructive. By seeing each other as human and extending a hand helps unify the fight hate. And the thing too is a lot of the people, and I'm not talking about the people that are in the media, a lot of the people, when you're hearing anger, what you're hearing is passion, right? They are legitimately afraid that if X happens, then the devastation is going to be Y. And they may be right. But the problem is they're yelling about that so loud that nobody can hear what they're really saying. Hey Tish, popping in to show my support. It's already midnight in the UK. Thank you, Aaron Morgan, and I'm done. Gonna leave you running and replay tomorrow, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time to step in. Um, Miranda, I think I missed something earlier, and now I it went too fast, so I can't find it. Super late can only listen, Lori. Thank you for stopping in, and I appreciate that as well. But yeah, we also have to have a little bit of grace too for people that I want to say go on a rant about things because again, remember they're scared of something when they do that, or they may be right, scared to death that someone's not going to listen. But no one hears you when you're screaming. They hear the noise, but they don't hear what you're going to have to say. Vicky, I'm having a horrible day right now. I'm so sorry. The barometric pressure change wants me to rip my face off. I'm non-different as I take daily control of pain. Vicky, I hate that for you so much. Hey, T-Rox. Okay, I think I got everybody, Scott. Maybe. Again, learning to navigate this. Um, oh, Tina Priester. I think what I miss about being a kid was being protected from the horrors that were going on around us. Watch the Wizards of Change. It's crazy how sheltered I was as a teen. Yeah, I mean, the difference is you didn't see it all of the time. I mean, even if you we lived in a very information-based household. My dad used to make I mean, Trivial Pursuit was the biggest game we played. We um read the encyclopedias and the Britannicas, but it's still different than having that media in your face all of the time and every day, all day long. Um, I really remember that picking up badly after 9/11, where it was just 24/7 news cycles, got worse. CMS politics are just reality TV used to distract Americans from the problem we all face. Distract, divide, and conquer, and get away with anything by oversimplifying and creating an us versus them mentality. Yeah, like I said earlier, some of the worst, most dangerous things are us, them, and they because us is not who you think it is. A lot of people you think agree with you actually don't. And they and them, my mom used to say they sayers don't exist. As long as we're talking about that group and those people, we don't realize it's actually the person that's sitting right beside us that we're talking about. So I think I'm caught up. T Rock, love this community, agreed, and thankful for all the support and strength that they share. Yeah. Um, what happens at slumber parties stays at slumber parties, Scott. I love that. So Valhalla awaits. My eyes are killing me,
I've had
and
my eyes closed this whole time, so don't worry. Whatever y'all are doing, I'm not
not
looking. I'm
looking.
averting my
Yeah,
eyes.
don't believe him for a second on that. Valhalla awaits. Saying my eyes are killing me, so I'm not in the chat, but I'm listening. Thank you so much. Edward Lockhart, thank you for coming in as well. I think. And again, guys, have a little bit of grace because I'm not used to navigating it this way. Um, Thank you, Tish in Tennessee. I think everyone had their bad days and good days. That's true. No matter what they're going through, physical, mental, emotional, but we all get through. Yeah. We always all have something we have to carry. It's just if we can help lighten the load of other people, then that's our privilege. Sin Sinbad Triple Three used to play Trivial Pursuit on Friday nights and poker on Saturday as a family when my kids were growing up. The new world seems surreal to me. Yeah. And every time you think it can't get more graphic, for lack of another way to say it, it does. I really do worry about how the little bitty kids in the family are gonna what kind of world they're gonna be in when I compare mine as say grandchild is a year. And I cannot imagine what it's gonna be like for her when she's my age. I mean, I don't even know how to guess what it's gonna look like. I hope
Well, I think what's unusual
yeah.
is there's so much great information that's out there, right? I mean, the amount of information on art and history, I mean, anything you
Yeah,
could possibly want to learn, you can, as soon as this live stream is
yeah.
over, you can make yourself an expert on
Yes, and that's the
absolutely
good side to
anything.
it,
Yeah,
right?
and most people
Yeah,
aren't, right? When
yeah.
people say things to me, like they try to guess how old you are based on movies you talk about, it doesn't even make any sense to me. What the hell are you talking
No,
about?
no, you can't do that anymore.
You could listen to exactly. If this was the '80s and
Sure,
you were talking about something from the '60s, like, I don't know, a TV show, and you're like, "Well, you must have been such and
like
such
a
age." You
rifleman, like
Yeah,
Rifleman.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. You would
yeah,
have had to have been alive in order to see it.
yeah,
But those days are so far behind us. You could talk about Charlie Chaplin, you could talk about Buster Keaton, you could talk about
yeah,
movies from the '30s, you could talk about, books, really, well, books always, but I mean, you could
yeah,
do these things at any time, and so I think that just needs to be encouraged because
yeah.
once upon a time, for those who are listening who aren't American, we have cities that just have the worst education system in the world,
Yes,
and it has to be by
yes,
design. It has
yeah,
to be the
it has to
politicians
be. Yeah,
because the United States has so much freaking cash. We are rolling in dough, and there's no excuse
mhm.
why Detroit, New Orleans,
Why
New
your
York.
school in the
Yeah.
richest part of town should be any different than your school in the poorest part of town.
Exactly. San
Yeah,
Francisco, Los Angeles, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Boston. You grab these great cities that everybody in the world knows, and who the hell would want to go to the public school there? It has to be
yeah,
by design to keep people dumb. Well, fine. That may have worked in the past, but not
it's not working
anymore. You got
anymore.
a freaking
Yeah.
phone, and you got a computer, and wherever the hell you live, it's like the library's open.
But where we have a challenge there is being able to filter through what is good information and good source. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of access and information that, hey, Journey, LVR, missed you have been on Scott stream lately. We will connect. Absolutely. Did you order the blue light glasses I suggested? Yes, I did order those blue light glasses, and they've actually helped me sleep. Although I still have some 24-hour days, they have had me sleep. But before your access to certain types of information, how to do things was barred by your ability to afford a higher education. But now you can become an expert, on the internet. I use it all the time. If I run into something, say in Excel that I don't know how to do, I YouTube it. And everybody's like, oh, you're awesome. You figured that out. No, I spent 5 minutes on Google. So the access to being able to become an expert at something and learn how to do something, the barriers aren't there. Like my grandmother, I can imagine how much she would have read had she been able to go on a virtual library, right? But then the flip side of that is how much of that is getting down to the truth and getting down to somebody that you can actually trust.
Yeah.
California has,
You know what more people need to do with educational videos on YouTube? They just really need to get right to it and tell people what they wanna hear. I was trying to learn something the other day, and it was 5 minutes and I think 22 seconds
yeah,
before it got in. Before that, "Hi, everybody. So I wanted to let you know, my name is Rob." Not, Rob. Let's just change it. "My name is Jeff, and
Jeff.
I've been a
Nah,
digital designer
we got a Jeff
since,
dude.
1997, and so I work at a company called and so today we're gonna talk." It's like, "Oh my god. Oh my god. Jeff, just freaking get to it. We don't need a whole freaking story. Don't need to tell me what you're gonna tell me. I see it
Yeah,
right there in the description.
see it, yeah,
Brother, get right to it. I don't have freaking time. You know why? Because 10 other videos came up that could teach me the same thing, and yours
and I
is
don't have
7
all
minutes.
of that.
Yeah, yours says 7 minutes and 46 seconds. Somebody else says 3 minutes and 29
Yeah.
seconds. You better freaking get to this, man, or I'm shutting this down and going over to the other guy, and I mean pronto.
Hey,
And it's
Miss Amanda, I'm sorry. Thank you for coming in. Barbara Vance was saying this is why we limit our children's access to the internet. Now they're grown, limit themselves, and I think it's great that we have it, and it can be a huge. The other thing is, I think if you're a parent or a grandparent, you have to educate yourself on what content they are consuming. For example, like my granddaughter for a long time was not allowed on YouTube, but she was allowed on TikTok and got in some trouble over she was imitating some of the things they were doing on TikTok. Like they were setting up a story and it was a text story between everybody. Long story short, her parents found it and it could have been better content, but yet they were barring her from YouTube where she could learn how to draw better, which is what she wants to do now, is she wants to be an attorney and an artist. So I think you have to watch what they're doing. So I think that's good. B said kids also need to learn how to learn. You're absolutely right about that. And evaluate, sort through all the information. That's why a good school system is so important. Yep. And, one of the problems was when I was younger, this and my younger brother too, we were, and this is going to sound boastful, and I don't mean it that way. We were way ahead of other kids in our classes, like grades ahead. But what we didn't have is as much of an ability to relate to other people. So I think it's a little bit of that both. You have to have the emotional quotient as well as the intellectual quotient. And we lacked that for a long time because we didn't interact with a lot of people. So you've got to be careful how much you isolate kids because you want to protect them versus they're not able to actually function. Laura Lane, thank you so much for the super chat. So happy to see you live stream tonight, Tish. I love YouTube University and the ability to choose what we consume. Yep. If you don't like it, change the channel, so to speak. Absolutely. And I still remember barely when there were only like 5 channels, not 3, but 5. I'm not quite that old yet. Um, where you really didn't have a choice. I mean,
what are the 5 channels? ABC,
um,
NBC, CBS, PBS. What else was there?
WB,
What the hell's
WB was
that?
there. It was an early version of,
Is that Warner Brothers?
yeah, it was an early version. It was called Channel 30 here and Channel 17. So we had 2, 4, 5, 30, 17, and 8. It's 6 channels. So
That was the equivalent of ABC, NBC, and CBS?
And then PBS, and then 30 was a local station, and 17 became the WB eventually, which I now think is called something else. I don't know. Um,
WB was a network, its own network?
mhm, at one point. Scott, I had the same experience. I just knew I could replace my door handle by watching YouTube. I was just saying, I'm sorry, I was saying just what you did. Get on with it. Yep. There's a lot of things. If I don't know how to do something, I'll go on YouTube
Yeah. I
because
just wish they
I'll learn it.
sometimes somebody puts in the comments, like, "Jump to 9 minutes and 14 seconds to learn what the hell," the reason you're
Yeah.
here. Because, yeah, it's a lot of it.
Yep.
People just talk and talk and
Well,
talk, and
and,
nobody
Journey
wants
was
to
saying,
hear it.
"Tish, it sounds like you might be gifted high IQ, lower EQ." That's my son. I don't know if you would say gifted or as much my father valued information over anything else. So we didn't watch television, we read instead. And that sounds great, and now I appreciate it with what I do, but when you don't interact with other people, that can be a crippling factor as well, just as much as not having access to education. The cool thing about the social media is you have the ability to do that. And the bad thing to social media, everything's always a two-sided coin. And even if the sides look identical, they're not.
Oh,
Um,
there you are. Did you go
yeah,
out for a second?
maybe. Am I back?
Yep.
Okay. Um, Barbara Vance, when I was a kid in Germany, we had one English channel. That had to be really interesting to learn that way. Let's see. CG from Texas said we had one channel, no radio. I didn't miss it because I didn't know any better. Yep. But I scheduled my classes around reruns and all the great sitcoms. I never saw it yet. Me and a friend were talking today because football was on and he paused it and he's like, "You remember when you actually had to watch things when they came on? You couldn't watch it later or pause TV. So Sue Magic, single mom, Google has helped me with many home repairs and saved me a lot of money. Yeah, it helps me
Testing, one, two,
know.
three.
Can you hear me? I can
Either
hear
I am
you.
gone or Tish is gone.
All
Which
right,
could it
who?
be?
Let's see.
Actually,
Allegra, who can you hear? Okay, Scott is not there. Can you guys hear me okay? Testing one, two, three. Hello. Okay, you can hear us both. We lost Scott somewhere. Hopefully he'll come back in. Let's see. Let's go back a little bit. Not that can not that Karen. My siblings and I felt like we were ahead because my mom taught us to read really early on. It helped so much. Yep, reading's a big thing. Going back up a little, Miranda. I remember when the cable first came out, and it had that box with the wire and 3 rows of channels. You had to switch and switch. You had to get used to getting to get the different shows. Yeah, and you had to get up and make that switch. You couldn't just do it from the couch. So yeah, you can hear both of us. I'm good. Okay. Thank you guys. It's hard to what you're seeing in YouTube is actually 10 seconds behind I'm sorry. We are 10 seconds ahead of what we see. So when you guys are typing, we don't see it for 10 seconds. When we say something, you don't hear it for 10 seconds. Um Ms. Whoops. And he's back, I think.
I'm glad I got this brand new Wi-Fi set up that doesn't fit.
Hey, what? Okay, okay. I was startled for a second because I was like, watch your camera, make sure your avatar is coming up, and not you. Um, let's see. Oh, Haley the mouse. I remember using a coat hanger as an aerial. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, and it's so funny. Imagine how many jobs though people talk today about like AI and computers taking our jobs. It took a lot of jobs when television and media advanced, but then it created a lot of jobs as well. You just gotta have to learn to kind of pivot off of what you were doing. CG in Texas, when he was a kid, played cards, checkers, Chinese checkers, horseshoes, etc. Gin rummy, crazy eights, Uno spoons, spades, and war. Some of the card games. Yep, war. I remember that very well. Let's see. Oh my God, y'all are making me feel old. 3 channels, party lines, super religious mom. So no TV at home until stepdad at 7. A different world. Yeah, Laurie, it can be a very different world. Kind of depending. Whoops. Sorry. Forgot to turn that down. All right. So Scott, what do you have coming up this week?
What day is this? Sunday?
It is Sunday. At
Tom-
least in the US in our time zone. Yes, it's Sunday.
Tomorrow is Monday. Rob and I have our show called The Innocence Chronicles. We're still trying to decide on a topic, but what I'm shooting for is shaken baby syndrome. Is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah,
Shaken
yeah,
baby?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of women, men too, actually, have gone to
Mhm.
jail
Yeah.
because they thought that they did that, but it wasn't always the case. I mean,
No.
there are people that got exonerated because the child died from other reasons, and they're like, no, 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 you shook it, and like, no, I didn't. Yeah, you did. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. We're putting you in jail. I didn't do it, and then they find out. So it's an interesting topic. There's so many
People
different
get
ways. Yeah.
yeah, people get really angry at me sometimes in the chat when I'm like, do not talk to police. Do not talk to police. If you're innocent, do not talk to police. Get a lawyer first. But like I said, my 32-year veteran police detective husband and my 80 something year old father, who's an attorney, would tell you do not. You can talk yourself into a jail cell easily because they
Yeah.
can twist what you
Never
say.
know. Never know.
And, I think sometimes some of it is just they get so far into it, they don't want to admit they were wrong because what does that look like? Right. So, yeah. Journey, I'm old. Nah, you're not old. I promise. B, will there ever be a series? Will the series always be Mondays now or just this one time? Scott Cardinal really enjoying it. I think she's talking about the Innocent Project, if it's going to be on Mondays. Scott, did we lose you? Hello? Think I hear something.
Yes, I'm having the worst internet. I don't know why.
Well, bless your heart, you're having computer problems all the way around. You were like me, what was it, week before last, where I told you I was ready to throw my laptop? Instead, I just got another one. Um, T-Rox says teaching critical thinking so our children can think for themselves, not just accept what is spoon fed. Let's not be quick to judge without checking facts and being wise about our words. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, Scott, they were asking about is um, the Innocence Project going to be on Mondays going forward? All right, looks like Scott's having some maybe device problems because it just popped up on my side. Sinbad triple three, yeah, get a good lawyer. Yep, get wired, Scott. Yeah, he's trying, bless his heart. First he had problems with his internet and then his computer, and you know how that goes. I think electronics talk to each other, and when one goes down, the rest of them decide to go down as well. So yeah, I'm sure he'll come back in here in a minute if he can get back in. Yeah, I'm watching for him. Lost him again. He'll be back. Linda B. Horrible with military families and so on the border. Yeah, absolutely. Scott has the worst internet connection of all YTubers. I think yeah, he's gotten some new equipment that he's trying to figure out. It's always hard. The Gremlins don't want Scott to answer, and I will try to answer for that. Yes, I think that move to Mondays is going to stay pretty stagnant, and I'm going to try to keep this time. Right now, my schedule is to try to put out a longer content videos on Tuesday and Thursday, and then do Sundays at this time. And again, it won't normally go like this. I'll have more prepared content, but I wanted to kind of see where we would go, so to speak. Let's see. So sad the Innocent Project. I miss fairy tale ending. I miss the fairy tale readings and Nomi shenanigans analysis. And I am going to do some readings as well. One of them, because few people have asked about the Bell Witch. I've got um, if anybody wants to listen and let me know in the comments. One that was actually written by Charles Bailey Bell, who is a brain surgeon. That it's this one, and it's a lot of the account of what he remembers as being little. It's called a mysterious spirit. So if, or I'm sorry, um, yeah, mysterious. If anybody's interested in hearing that, let me know, and then I will put that out there because it's pretty interesting. He was only 6 at the time that the Bell Witch was attacking his family, but it's interesting because, of course, being 6, you don't know what he remembers and what he remembers he was told. Because memory is one of those things that's it's not like a recorder, but it's pretty interesting. Not that Karen had several weeks of bad internet yesterday. I finally got my service call today. It's a relief to be free from those frustrations. Yeah, we become so dependent on the internet anymore. Um, it's kind of hard to say what we do without it. T Rox, thank you for a great first live stream and look forward to many more. Thank you so much. I'm just honored that you guys decided to come in. And I found Scott again, although you're a different square, you're a rectangle now.
I'm actually on my phone because that's the only
Oh,
way.
okay. Okay.
I have
Gotcha.
I have 3 computers in front of me, and none of them can get me online, so I'm on my damn phone.
Yep.
So,
Can you show the book again in the title? Yep. It's called The Bell Witch. I think it's going to show backwards on the screen, but The Bell Witch, A Mysterious Spirit by Charles Bailey Bell, MD. And like I said, he was a surgeon, so we're not talking about somebody who generally was an author. And it kind of reads like I would if I was talking about something that happened when I was 6. So he is basing it on memories that I was talking, Scott, when you were off about this book by Charles Bell that he was 6 when his family was haunted. So it's kind of hard to say what he remembers and what he was told, but it's interesting the way he goes through it.
yeah,
Yep.
are you going to read that? Are you able to read it? There was
Yeah.
a book that you wanted to read,
Yep.
wasn't there?
Yeah. There's a few. This one I can. It's I've got permission to read it, so which is really good. I love that Scott is doing everything he can to be there for Tish during her first live stream. Yep, absolutely, I agree with that. Tish, been great last screen informative. Yeah, we're trying to. And again, if you have something that you want to see covered, I do things very different than Scott. Scott is a storyteller, right? He is phenomenal. I'm more of a conversationalist, which he is too. But if there's something you want to see covered, just shoot me over an email, a text. My on Twitter, I am Tish in Tennessee one because years ago I had Tish in Tennessee and then forgot the password or the email to it. So I kind of had to make up another one. But if you want to contact me, the other thing is I do have an email that's on my channel. It's Tish in Tennessee too. So if you want to email me there as well, you can. It's a Tish at tishintennessee.com. I don't have my website up yet, Scott. I know I told you I was going to do that, but I don't have it up yet. I will.
What? Set up a website?
Yeah, I don't have that yet.
Oh, cool.
I need
What sort of information are you going to put on there?
um different resources for people in different areas, kind of a work in progress. Sandra, yes, genealogy stream. We will do one of those as well very soon. That's part of why I set up the live streams. And Scott can tell you it took a little bit to talk myself into doing it. To be honest
Uh,
with you.
our friend Cool Frog sent me a message. He's watching you, and he just
Hey,
says to
Cool
say
Frog.
hello.
Hi,
So
Cool Frog. Cool Frog's awesome too. He's one of the ones. It's funny how the people you meet lead you to other great people. If you and he's one of those great people. So, um, Edward, I would, but I don't have any ideas at the moment. But I'm sure there are a lot of more creative about people with better ideas than me that will. Everybody's creative. It just depends on if your creativity is turned up at the moment or not. So. I'm sure Scott's in the dark. Yes, Scott is now a dark rectangle. That's because he is on his phone because his computers have decided that somebody's messing with your simulation, Scott.
I think it must be the case. What else could it
Yeah,
be?
I don't think there's anything else it could be. So,
Considering the fact that I'm programming, there must be a reason. When we're all, in like 30 years, I'll find out.
so is it kind of like you're the programmer, but somebody's maybe writing a, I'm sorry, that Southern accent popped up there,
I
is
think
writing
that
a virus.
we're probably all living in the future right now,
Oh, okay.
and we're
Okay.
all part of programming our own simulation.
That's funny. Somebody just said Scott the bot. That does kind of rhyme, but
Yeah, because it's an interesting thing, right? Like when people think about um, death, which is an unpleasant conversation, and they think like if somebody dies, like they're not going to see them again, right? Or how lonely it must be for them to sit around, or their cat or dog. It's like who's taking care of their cat or dog right now? But the fact of the matter
yeah.
is, it's maybe we already are alive in the future, and so we just kind of wake up like you wake up in the morning, and so
Yeah.
already you're there with your cat and dogs and birds and pigs and your grandparents. You're already with them right now. You think that you're not. You
Yeah,
think you're
you think
not
you're
seeing them,
not, but you are.
but you're already there. And
Or
so
being
this is your
asleep
simulation
is
because,
being awake, and being awake is being asleep.
well, when you could live forever, it's just really boring after a while.
Yeah,
And so it's
yeah.
like, well, I got to find something to do. And so,
KP says at Scott, you're the black box. I don't know if you get that reference or not. There was a Netflix series called The Black Box. Have you ever seen it?
mm-hmm,
I think it was originally on HBO, but it's so funny if you go back and you watch some of those black boxes. Um, if you've never seen it, go back and just watch season one because it's several years old. But there are several things that it was saying we would have that we have, just like the old Star Trek shows and a lot of science fiction we end up having it now. Um,
mm-hmm.
there was one comment I want to bring back up. So KP is asking, does genealogy involve anything like 23andMe? Because I won't do those. Just curious. No. So genealogy is looking back at where your family came from, and you can do it through something like 23andMe, but that's actually DNA analysis. It's not the same thing. Genealogy can be going back through records, going back through birth records. When you get back into like the 1900s, a lot of times people kept birth and death records in Bibles rather than actually in official papers. The other thing about when you're doing non DNA based genealogy is You never know when someone is the postman's daughter, so to speak, versus the husband's daughter, or when you have one that's adopted. So, like for me, for example, um, when I'm looking at my adoptive family, it goes back a different way than actually my genetics go back. I do know my biological parents, so but yeah, no, we don't 23andMe can be a resource, but that's not the only way you can research your genealogy. And Ms. Amanda said, "Oh yeah, I'm a professional genealogist and work towards getting certified to be a historian, so I can get work in that field." Absolutely. If you'll shoot me over something on Twitter, for you and Sandra, maybe we can all three get together because I think it's something that really interests people, especially people like me that are adopted for a while. That's one of the reasons we did do 23andMe because my son was curious as to where we came from. But of course, there's no records. But since I've met my birth family, we know a lot more. But yeah, if you're interested, Miss Amanda, just pop me over an email or a Twitter. And then CG in Texas says, by the way, In the Dark is a great series on Netflix. I don't think I've heard of that one just yet. Let's see. Yeah, they say you need to put in order with Musk since he's on Twitter. So Musk does not control the simulation, though. I have a feeling if he did, it would be very different.
He can access the toolbox.
He can
He
get in the
does
tools.
things. He
Yeah, he
does
can get in
things
the
that
tools.
make the he changes he shakes the box and he
He
changes
shakes
things.
it. Does he
He,
lose your tools occasionally?
he does. There's some people
Okay.
that could access the toolbox.
Or just not put them back when he borrows them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Miss Amanda says, I've traced my maternal family lineages way back when the Bohemian Kings ruled. I would love everyone to find out where they come from. It's so fun. But you have to take the bad with the good. And that is absolutely true. My husband wanted me to look into his, and we found out that his grandfather had always said that he was an only child. He wasn't. There were four other brothers. They got into it over the ownership of a furniture store. So when my husband and his brothers grew up, they knew there were other people with the same last name in the town, but they were always told they were not related to them. They were very related, like first cousin related. And he also found out that his dad was a twin and his dad that had not survived, and that his dad was born before his grandparents were married. So when you start looking back at that, yeah, you find I use my son all the time because we've got some lineage that traces back to some royalty in France. But then I also remind him we have some with the Hatfields and McCoys too. So not to get to feeling too blessed in that. Let's see. Streisand effect. I remember laughing in 1969 when 2001: A Space Odyssey came out. Never would never would we have PCs or phones where we could live chat. Oh well, technology proved me wrong. Yeah, and I forget the show that that this was in, but like they had their phones in their hands, and I'm one of the people that lose their phone every 5 minutes. And I know a lot of people would be scared of that, but I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't have to hunt it so much. Um, yeah, Sandra, that would be great if you could, if you're interested and definitely because genealogy is, like I said, a very interesting thing. I used to get really, it was always interesting in doctor's offices when they asked about family history. And I'd always say, I'm adopted. And they just look at me like, oh, so you don't know anything. I'm like, nope, that means I don't know much of anything. So, um, yeah, and the other thing too is what I think is really amusing, and especially here, I live in the South, I live in Tennessee, and a lot of people will justify some of their thoughts as, well, this is my heritage. But the reality is, a lot of the people in their family were not on the side of the states that left the Union. They were actually the opposite. So it's funny. I often think we would all have you know, more patience for everybody if we knew our genealogy, because the reality is we're all mixed up with everything and we're more related to people than we think. So, Sky's Neighborhood hour 0.36 in this Monday is not so bad. Good. I'm glad that you've at least found some enjoyment out of it. Um, let's see. I think Tish, I love researching my family tree. My mom's family, Rayburns of Tennessee, we've gone back to the 1700s. Cool. When you get past the 1700s, and again, Miss Amanda can kind of put in, it gets really, really interesting to try to find things. It's a lot of, depending on who your family is and who they were, you end up with less and less actually written records. Um, I can't remember what it was, Scott, not too long ago that it took me. Good night, Carrie. Yes, I appreciate you stopping in. It took me about an hour to find a newspaper article on something because I had to look through a bunch of them to get to it. Because if it's set past 1700s, it's just really hard. True that, Tish. Yep.
Well, in the United States, especially, I mean,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of a lot of newspapers just they never took the time to scan in. There
yeah,
was a when I was doing research on Friar Park in Henley on Thames, there's this great newspaper in Henley, right? This beautiful medieval town outside of London. And I knew that they had great articles. The
yeah.
fact is, though, they never took the time to scan in their old thing. So if they don't do it, can't be found unless you fly to England, go to Henley, and then go into their basement and start looking through copies of old newspapers they might have.
Yeah, and the thing is too, if you think that media spin is a new thing, it is absolutely not. A lot of times when you go back and read newspapers, they say the exact same thing as the others do. It's kind of interesting. Ms. Amanda says we're all connected somehow. Yes, I agree with that. Sandra Ramirez said I have lots of hints that go back past the 1700s. Yes, I think the hints you're talking about maybe ancestry.com, and there are a lot, but it just depends on where you are and who you are. And I'll give an example. For my grandparents, they were in Red Bowling. Red Bowling is a very small town in Tennessee, and a lot of them did not know how to read or write. So they didn't have as much written records themselves. There are a few biblical records, but a lot of times they didn't tend to trust the government, so they didn't file a birth certificate, and a lot of them didn't have a social security number. So it just kind of depends. It can make it hard. Haley Mouse, one of our best friends, is adopted, and he doesn't want to know anything about his biological family. He says his adoptive parents are all he needs. Absolutely, Haley did not mean to imply otherwise. It's just from a medical perspective. Doctors always look at me like, "What do you mean you don't know?" Because I don't know. In a lot of cases, Tish, I'm in a Potomacs. I have a great great grandfather who were both CSA and Union generals. Genealogy is fascinating. I found out I'm part Cherokee too. Yeah, in fact, if you ever get to come to Tennessee in Pigeon Forge, there's a place called the Old Mill, and it is now a restaurant, but it used to actually be a mill. And there were a lot of people at the mill that were making Union soldier uniforms in secret to ship them back over. So it's really interesting how people think their heritage can be one thing, it's actually something else. KP, both my maternal and paternal grandmothers were orphaned. I have very, very little family history. And that's something where, if you want 23andMe may be able to connect you to people. But again, I would be, you know, a lot of people feel like that's something very dangerous. It might be, but everybody's got to make their own decisions there. I'm Sinbad. I'm adopted too, and finding out medical information is so important. Yeah, it definitely can be. Sandra Ramirez, probate records, land records are the most underutilized records for pre 1700s. That's true. The other thing is there's time in history where women actually could not own property. So it was in the property of men who sometimes were related and sometimes not. So it's a big puzzle, and it gets really interesting. Ms. Amanda, I have copies of handwritten letters from our early presidents. Oh wow, that would be interesting to see, Scott. And my goodness, some took a little work to decipher because of their lack of being able to read and write properly. Yep, I can imagine. Um, I was really surprised, Haley Mouse, when he didn't change his mind when they were having children. I thought he'd be more interested because of medical history. Yeah, but it's one of those things where your genetics are important, but there's a lot of other things involved too. So we lost Scott again. Here he is again.
That
I
was
have to admit,
that was my
I
fault.
am very honored by your determination to stay and help me. So
That was my fault.
um, that's okay. Hi, Tish. A lot of recording was in the Family Bible. So far. I do know so far all was from Knox County. Yeah, Bibles were big. Um, Miranda Giovanni, I really want to do this. My grandmother, I'm sorry, I really want to do this. My mother gave my half brother up for adoption when I was 17. It was a closed adoption, though, through Catholic Charities. I know his name was given and nothing else yet. That happened a lot too, where the records either weren't there sealed, or if you're like me and it was technically, I guess, a purchase of a baby that wasn't quite above board. That can be kind of interesting as well.
Purchase of a what?
Yeah, my adoption's a little bit interesting. How my
Purchase
father got to the
purchase of
front
a
of the
baby?
line.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, my dad made some donations, so him and my mom got to the front of the line with adopting me. So, um,
Wait, you could buy a baby? That's adoptions like eBay?
not like eBay, but yeah, there have been people that have
The highest bidder gets the baby?
not exactly, but in my case, he gave a donation to somebody that helped them get ahead of the people that were already on the list to adopt.
Okay.
And there are people that, do contract with other people through surrogacy or other means to get a baby.
Yeah.
Um, Vicky T, yeah, he made a political donation that got them to the head of the line. My father was born out of wedlock in 1933 in Oklahoma. My grandmother was a wild woman. Um, yeah, and Scott, this still happens for real. And yeah, maybe that's something I'll talk about on another live stream or in another area. It just gets kind of complicated
No,
pretty
actually, I
quickly.
know quite a bit about it. I have
Yeah,
friends who are egg donors. I have friends who are
yeah. Well, and
sperm
I'm not talking about like that he
surrogates.
yeah, they didn't hire somebody to have a baby. They made a donation to get to the top. They were moving, and number one, made a donation where I would be held for them, and number two, made a donation to get to the top of the line. So
Wow.
that's why I was not in a home until I was 2 months old. So I was with foster or a temporary family until then. Tish in Tennessee, we can talk at some point. I see a show on the orphan train happening in your future. Yeah. No, Scott, it's like greasing the palms of politicians to garner favors. Adoption is a minefield. It can be. Yeah. And it's a
Wow.
good thing. I mean, and I would one who gave a child for adoption under certain circumstances where you just don't have a choice or it's not something you want to do. And if it's not something you want to do, raising a child is a big deal. So giving one up for adoption, no problem with. It's just the whole process can get, um, we're going to call it interesting for tonight.
Yeah. Did you read Joe's latest tweet from like 32 minutes ago? You
Hang
could
on.
probably do a whole show just reading Joe's awesome tweets, and I'm sure he'd be fine with it. But
Probably.
he
Yeah.
re- he retweeted some lady, Hamilton something, and she writes, I guess it's a she, maybe it's a he. It
Yeah.
says, women don't get pregnant by themselves. When a child is born, both parents are responsible for raising said child, both emotionally and financially. End of story.
I see it.
So Joe responds, this is where feminism screwed with your mind. For thousands of years, in every consensual encounter, women had the full and final say on whether coitus occurred. That's interesting. I think it's the first time I've ever said the word coitus out loud, by the way. So this is a
Yeah.
first.
And I'm sure in the next 100 years or so. Yeah. I mean,
So wait, then here's this final sentence. It's great. He says, you demand empowerment, get it, and then say, and this is in quotes, it takes two to get pregnant, as if sex wasn't 100% your choice.
yeah, I have a feeling that tweet of his is going to blow up. Yeah, and it's blowing up.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know. It depends on what you consider choice, right? Um, a lot
Well,
of
consensual.
people,
Yeah.
well, people are getting married in the 13 and 14 years old. Um, yeah, interesting.
In Tennessee or in West Virginia? Is there someplace else?
Everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
people didn't live that long. You're forgetting we used to have kings and queens that were in their teens at one point because people didn't live past 30. Lady Autumn Sky, let me know if I can repeat that because I don't want to without your permission. Um, and oh dear, yes, Hamilton is a gal. So Sinbad Triple Three is saying that that is a girl. Yeah, he's gonna have fun, and that may be why he said what he said. That will get comments. Yeah, he's gonna get. Um, did you see the reply back to him?
Let's see. He's got a few replies, so let's see what he said.
Yeah, that one's getting ugly really fast. We're gonna leave that one alone for a minute.
Let's see.
Um,
Christine Moore says, "Funny how that doesn't work these days. In my day, if I wasn't on the pill, I told a man, no, unless you. I don't give a care about his feelings. I had a choice, and he had a choice. By the way, if two are responsible for support, why does only one have the choice of life or not?" I see
I mean,
that a
and I
lot.
can
And people
see,
say
I
it's
can see,
why is it just the woman's choice? But I mean, I don't know. It's a weird thing.
and I can kind of see both sides of arguments, right? Um,
Oh, here we
pick,
go. Here's what Hamilton responded. Respectfully, who do you think you're talking to? Your archaic mindset. I should do this as Sweet Brown, shouldn't I?
yeah, I know.
Respectfully, who do you think you're talking to? Your archaic
I like
mindset
that
is
better.
very
Yeah, I like that
disappointing.
better.
What?
I like the accent on that one.
This is not about feminism. This is about responsibility. You're wrong about every encounter is consensual. Are you saying women get pregnant by themselves and you're an attorney? Anybody got time for that? I edited that part.
Well, and two, I'm not that Karen. It's not that I'm gonna shy away from, any opinion or comment. I don't know the entire scope of what Joe is referring to. And I don't know where he's getting his statistics from. So until I know that, I don't feel like I can really comment. But uh, if Joe wants to come in here and talk about it, that's perfectly fine too. But I just wonder, like I'm going to try to go back and find who said it. Technically, my grandmother was violated, is the word I'm going to use, the whole marriage because she was married off at 16. I mean, exactly. And what were you talking about? U.S. women? Are you talking about women were chattel slaves, maids? Yeah. I mean, I don't know what lens he made that comment through. If he's making them lens through the day, through history, I'm not sure. So it's not that again, I'm not shying away from it. I don't shy away from anything, but I don't know the whole scope of what that conversation was. So I mean, yeah.
On the subject of
Um,
Joe, we have a show on Tuesday, as you know,
you do.
called
Yep.
Law and Lore, where we talk about the history of laws. And this Tuesday will be about the Eighth Amendment, which is cruel and unusual. And you and I will be chatting about different torture devices, which should be interesting. So that'll be fun. We'll talk about after we get off. We'll talk about it. I have a great book. I told you, but
Yeah.
man, people did horrible things to other people throughout history. It's scary.
People doing horrible things. I mean, it's like the worst animal can be a human.
Well, when I was a
Um,
kid, I actually asked my mom, I said, how could people do such horrible things to animals? And she said to me, she said, look what humans do to other humans. You said, you think they care about a dog or a cat? I mean, if they're able to do things to other people.
yeah. And everybody who you say that to wants to bring up some story of, say, there was a fox and a rabbit that were playing together. Well, yeah, but there's plenty of foxes and rabbits that would where the fox would have dinner. So it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
Let me
So
get
what's
back
your
on.
plan for this show? So you're going to do this
Yep.
every Sunday and just kind of
Yep.
what, talk about whatever's on your mind, kind of hang
A
out.
little bit of what's on our mind, a little bit of what we're seeing, across the media, because a lot of people are in the same, some stories, and there seems to be a lot of interest in genealogy and research. So it'll just vary from week to week. But yeah, I'm going to keep it on Sundays. I'm trying not
Cool.
to, and it's an easy time for me, and I don't have to worry about not being on your show, which is important to me, of course. So yeah,
Well, Sunday
uh,
is a good day. I mean, it's just that
yeah,
everybody needs some kind of break, and everybody who's doing streams all freaking week long, it's like the weekends are the chance to have some sort of mental break.
yeah.
Um,
It's a
although I
mental
don't
break.
understand.
We're not gonna
Yeah,
be mean, we're not gonna do a lot of big debate. It's just, what I would call a calmer content. And I work during the week, which so it's hard for me to do stuff.
hmm
Allegra said humans, which we technically are, primates, are the only ones proven species to show intentional malice. Interesting tidbit. Others do what they do to survive. Yeah. Except I have a dog named Loki that thinks everything belongs outside. That I'm kind of wondering about that whole intent thing. Um, I'm kidding, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Um, where do you want topic suggestions at Tish and okay, so you can either put them in the comments in my videos. You can email me, Tish at Tennessee. I can't say my name. Tish at tishandtennessee.com, either place. So yeah. I like Sundays for you at Tish. I can do KK with Hayden and then come up straight here. Awesome. Yep. And like I said, I just want it to be something calm, not screaming, not raising voices. We hear a lot of that during the week. Just something to kind of kick back and have conversations. All right, guys, we're about at the 2 hour mark, so we're going to kind of give some of your evening back. But I so appreciate all of you coming in. I'm absolutely blown away. Um, we've got 35 watching right now, and we've had quite a few throughout the night. So I really, really more than you know. And Scott, again, gonna thank you. I appreciate you taking the time tonight. I know Sundays are not really good for you, but I'm a little bit leery on going on my own the first time out. So I appreciate you.
No, happy to be here. You kidding? Anytime. Anytime.
Absolutely. All
Except
right,
except
guys.
Wednesdays. Except Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. Anytime
Except
other than that.
Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. Yeah. No, Wednesdays at 8 o'clock, I'm usually like looking up things for you guys that
That's
it's
true.
usually this is how it works. Somebody asks a question and I can tell that it's like, we're not so sure. So I go pull it and either email it to Ian or
Yeah,
you or whoever's
exactly.
not, who's ever stream it's not, if that makes any sense.
And on
Um,
Friday, we're going to be doing another pre-show prior to Rob. We're going to do Weird
yep.
Science.
Yep. We're going to do weird science. So that's kind of our thing now. And I love it because, again, it's just sit back. But one of the things to remember when we do those that we're talking about it from the time, and that's something I feel like we need to say every time, but just kick back, have fun. Remember something, right?
Yeah.
So,
And then the following week will be Thanksgiving, but on Friday we'll do Planes, Trains, and Automobiles since that has
yes.
a
Yes.
Thanksgiving theme, since it's all about them going home for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And
And
then Christmas, we have to come up with a Christmas show. I keep being
yes.
told, let's ask everybody really quick what they think. We don't have to decide right
Sure.
now. But there's so many Christmas movies, and I thought, well, Miracle on 34th Street, there's Home Alone, which I've never
Mhm.
seen. But there's a movie that I've never seen. I'm going to announce it right here in front of everybody. And I think you will be amazed by it. Is it A Christmas Story with that kid, that blonde kid with the glasses, the BB gun? Do you know what I'm talking about?
With the pink rabbit?
No, I don't know. I've never seen it. A BB gun. Isn't that
Um,
called A Christmas Story?
maybe. Yeah, the chat can remind me. I think that sounds right.
You don't know that movie? Well, if you
I
don't
don't
know it,
know
then
that
we're in
one.
trouble.
I know.
Oh, here it
You're
is. It's
like, you
called a,
found it. Maybe Tish doesn't know. That's weird. A
it's
Christmas
called
story. Yeah. Yeah. A Christmas
okay, yeah, it's
story.
called A Christmas Story.
The
It's
BB gun,
supposed
the
to
leg
be
lamp, and the pink bunny. Yes.
it's supposed to be
Yes.
crazy popular, like the most popular
Yes.
movie
Yes.
on earth.
Well, like,
And
a lot of the
a Red
scenes in
Ryder BB gun,
commercials
that's
where
it,
they
yeah.
reenact somebody licking a post with their tongue, that's from that movie where he stuck his tongue on a,
Yeah.
yeah,
I've never seen the movie, and people are amazed that I've never seen that movie. They're amazed by it. And the reason I think I haven't seen it is because the kid just seems kind of creepy to me.
a little bit. Yeah, I don't disagree. That's like I have never seen Elf all the way through. I've seen
Yeah.
enough of it that I think I've seen it, but I haven't seen it like from start to finish. That and Cocktails. I've got to sit down and watch it
Oh,
start to
should we
finish.
see that then? Should we see Elf for
We could.
Christmas?
Yeah, we could. What do you guys think?
So we got Elf, we've got Miracle on
Elf?
34th Street, or we have whatever the hell it's called,
Okay, so if
Christmas
you'd
Story.
like to see Elf, put a 1 in the chat. If you would like to see Miracle on 34th Street, put a 2. And if you would like to see The Christmas Story, put a 3. So kind of everybody vote. We're getting a lot of ones.
I mean, I know he's just supposed to be some dorky kid, but it's just I don't know. There's something creepy about him.
There's that, yeah, and I have seen pieces of that, seen all the way through. So we've got, and I will go back. Allegra, if you don't mind, to kind of help make sure I don't accidentally not count.
All right, what
So
was three? What does everybody want? Three. What is that? Elf?
That is The Christmas Story.
Oh
Elf
no.
was number one. We're gonna have ones and threes. The Miracle on 34th Street. Although, there's two Miracle on 34th Street. It would be interesting to contrast the two movies.
Well, the original one.
That's what I mean, though. The original and the one after, it would be interesting to compare them.
I think it's possible. I could
Linda
be
says
wrong.
one, two, and three. She wants us to do all three of them,
Can't do it.
which we might could.
We
There's
can't
a
be
little
done. We
time.
can't be done by 8 o'clock before Rob.
No, and we have to be done by before Rob. So
And we
I will
can't do it
count them
after
up.
because we don't know when Rob's going to be finished. I think his last show was like till 2 in the morning or something. So,
Yeah, for those of us who tend to like be up
well, we could
24
do one. Oh no, we can't. Thanksgiving. Wait, Thanksgiving? No, Christmas. Oh no, Christmas.
Christmas.
Um. Oh, well, we could do
Christmas
one
is
on
on a
Thursday and Friday.
Saturday. Yeah. Home Alone, KP Home Alone is my all-time favorite. I could watch it a million times. I've watched I think all of them, but I think the commercials that he does now are hilarious.
Joe
Where
Pesci.
he's yeah, no, Macaulay Culkin where he's pretending that he's back in the house and ordering a pizza and all that stuff. It's funny. It's kind of a parody.
We
Let's
might just
see.
have to do three. Why don't we just do 3 shows for that?
Yeah,
That
yeah, we
should
could
be
do
good.
3 shows. I have a CMS is saying I have a leg lamp Christmas lights. That is awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
And
you
then
know what we
Haley
need to
Mouse brought
do?
up the Santa Claus
We
with
need to find movies to watch for Famous, which is the first Saturday, the Famous Festival, the
yes,
first Saturday in December.
yes, yes, we
There
do.
aren't that. I don't know if there's any movies about gnomes, but I suppose we could find one about fairies and gnomes and unicorns. Any kind of movie that has that. What
So
was that movie with
what were
Tom
the
Cruise that had
labyrinth?
the
What
unicorn?
were the little creatures in the labyrinth? Weren't they technically gnomes? They look like them,
You mean
kind of.
the Fire Gang?
No, in the labyrinth.
Yeah, it depends on the creature you're talking about.
Yeah, you know about the babe. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, I think they just created creatures
they look
in
like oh, they're Vicky. Thank you. She corrected me. The term is goblins.
yeah,
So I didn't completely have it there.
and the Night Crystal. Oh wait,
Oh, the Gnome King was in it.
Dark Crystal. Dark
Dark
Crystal is a great
Crystal.
movie. Dark
Yeah, Dark
Crystal might be a
Crystal.
good movie to watch for Famous.
Yeah, Gremlins would be crazy too. So Gremlins, we saw that in the theater twice. And my brother knew when the really scary pieces were going to come up. So he was shorter. So he would sneak behind people in the movie theater and like pop their seat and or scare them. He ended up getting a whole large coat dumped on his head by somebody because he scared her so much and he stopped doing it. So I definitely remember Gremlins. It's technically and Die Hard is technically a Christmas movie, but I doubt
Okay,
you've seen that.
we'll do
Yep.
we'll do that too.
And Brigadoon is
What's
one
that?
that's I don't know that I know. I'll have to look that up. Yeah, awesome.
Who is that? Was that the movie with Henry Fonda's granddaughter? What was her name?
Um, Jane, not
It
Jane
wasn't Jane
Fonda.
Fonda. It was some pretty girl. She was only in like 2 or 3
Yeah,
movies, and then she
she was in
disappeared.
the film Nikita. I do remember that.
Yeah. What the hell was her
Um,
name?
which actually she did a pretty good
Bridget.
job in that
Was it
one.
Bridget
Bridget
Fonda?
Fonda. Bridget Fonda. Yes. Bridget Fonda. Yep.
The Gnome Before
I saw
Christmas.
Gremlins twice in cinemas first time with my eyes closed. And the funny thing about The Gnome Before Christmas, I do think
Yes,
that's a
funny.
movie.
No, it isn't. Is it?
It is funny that when you go back and watch old TV shows or old movies that you thought that the special effects were awesome, and now you watch them now and you're like, wait, I liked this. I thought this was real. I thought this was cool. And it's kind of like what Gremlins does, but yeah. And Gene Kelly's in that one, Brigadoon. So I started that as well. So hang on, I'm going to take a picture of of the voting, so that way we'll have it in a bit. And we take another look at it. I think everybody's voted at this point. All right,
Okay.
guys. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. Scott, you want to say anything to the chat before we call it?
No, just to you. Thank you so much for all your kind assistance over the course of time. You've been fantastic, and
Oh, thank you.
everybody loves you. And it's so awesome that you are doing this because you should be doing it. And you
Thank
have
you.
lots to say, and you've got great ideas for shows. And I know we've bounced around different ideas over the course of
Yeah,
time, and it's
we
going
have.
to evolve. You know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
no way of
definitely
saying,
so.
okay, this is it, and this is my
Nope.
show, because you'll come up with ideas. Things will hit you in a week or 6 weeks or in a year, and
Yeah.
just don't be afraid to try different things and see what works and be yourself. And
Thank
you
you.
already have a good crowd of people. You have a fan base, and people are happy to hear you, and it's going to be awesome.
Well, thank you for your kind words. And to all the chat, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. And take care. We'll talk to you soon.
See you,
Thanks.
everybody. Good night.